Everybody, it's this Perch. One of the more exhausting things I think that's happened more lately, and this is a phenomenon of I don't know, the last 2 or 3 years. Uh, I should preface this by saying creators from the past, be it John Byrne or Frank Miller, Steve Ditko, there's always been comments that get made about these people after they kind of their highlight fades. People start coming in to talk some crap about them. And we've seen it kind of across the board. We saw it about Chris Claremont, where somebody remembered that at one point Chris Claremont had Kitty Pryde, use the N word in some of his comics. Now she was using it. Not as a. She wasn't calling like, hey. She wasn't just shouting at somebody. She was basically trying to show that mutie as a term is a bigoted kind of racist term, no different than the N word, no different than some of these other hateful terms. That was the point he was trying to make. It wasn't made particularly well, in my opinion. I mean, I don't. It felt like more shock value than decent story writing. But regardless, some people kind of remembered that this happened. So there's this brief, like 2 week period where people were trying to kind of, I don't want to say cancel, but that is in effect what it was. Basically, like, let's not forget the problematic things that Chris Claremont has done, like this panel where Kitty said the N word, and he did this. Look at this. And we've seen it for certainly John Byrne. We've seen it for Alan Moore. We've seen it for a number of creators in the past where somebody pulls something in and then they want to make some noise about it. This right now, Alan Moore is the person that seems to be getting a lot of recent tweets. Tess Fowler did something, Danny Lore did something, and there's suddenly this dialogue around Alan Moore. One of the weirder aspects of this, and I saw in a private Facebook group that he got brought up, and then suddenly everybody started, almost simultaneously wanting to bitch about Moore, and it had this feel of something coordinated, but coordinated by stupid people, where there was a bunch of kind of misogyny claims and really odd things like this Swamp Thing. Like, why do only dude bros like Swamp Thing? It was just this very, very bizarre kind of thread that went on with Swamp Thing and with Alan Moore. And what I don't get is this, and maybe this is just me and not you, but for me, especially over time, the personality of the writer tends to vanish and only the work remains. So, for example, Frank Miller, somebody I've seen at cons many times. I've heard Frank Miller talk. I know a decent amount of Frank Miller. So Frank Miller, the person, the human being, is kind of stuck in my head. I can tell what he's like. But as years go by, more and more, the Frank Miller that I know and think about in terms of comics is all through his work. It's all through Daredevil. It's all through Sin City. It's all through his work on Batman. Same thing for John Byrne. John Byrne has a very colored legacy in a lot of ways, but more often, the more years go by, the John Byrne that I remember is a John Byrne as told through the storytelling, as told through Fantastic Four and X-Men, and we did with Man of Steel and Superman and Next Men and some of the other things he's done. That becomes the John Byrne I remember. So when people show up to talk about comic writers who really haven't been active in decades or more, and they want to go into kind of these aspects of their personality, it always feels extremely childish. It always feels extremely churlish to me. It feels like somebody is out to be jealous or out to get someone, as opposed to just focusing on the work. I think it's very valid to talk about Watchmen and to talk about what parts of Watchmen were original, what parts were not, what parts perhaps led to a lot of copying, a lot of people who would come in and kind of clone that style to the detriment of comics in some cases. I think it's a worthy debate and discussion to talk about Watchmen and say that, was it really all it was cracked up to be in terms of kind of in-depth storytelling, or did it benefit from the fact that it came out in a time where the market was ready for something a little deeper, something a little bit more complex? It stood on the shelf with a bunch of other comic books that were trending more shallow. I saw this blog get written by somebody who said that Alan Moore and Watchmen benefited heavily from Craven's Last Hunt. And I could not even begin to imagine what the premise of this article was. But basically, the theory was Craven's Last Hunt wound up doing very good trade business, which is true. That was one of the first times Marvel, I think, had put out a hardcover trade relatively quickly. There's just some things they did in the market. And this helped pave the way for other trades. And in particular, Watchmen benefited from basically having this channel opened up that Spider-Man, a more well-known, obviously it's Spider-Man, so more well-known character, having a more dark, adventure that involved suicide and other things. And so it kind of opened the door an extra crack that helped Watchmen. The premise of that article I still think is a little bit flawed just based on the dates of when everything came out, but it was an interesting theory. And I think that there's some truth to that. But regardless, I think these are all interesting topics we can have about Watchmen. What I think is a less interesting topic or debate to have about, the comic, and in particular Alan Moore, is what, for example, Danny Lore goes into, let's not forget that Alan Moore got away with a lot of stuff that we couldn't get away with today, meaning I'm assuming people of color and non-binary. I'm guessing that's what Danny was trying to infer there, but I don't think that holds any weight. I mean, here's my question, because I see this brought up more and more lately. It's like, don't forget these people in the past got away with stuff we never could. What are you not getting away with exactly? I mean, as from my perspective, it seems like people are getting away with whatever they want in comics. At this point, with all the options you have, but you have a robust indie system of Image. I mean, you've got Daenerys Targaryen doing a comic book about kind of superpowers based off a menstrual cycle. Like, what are you not able to get away with in comics? I think you can get away with whatever you want in terms of a story. Nobody's holding you back. I look at some of the retcons, some of the changes to characters. I mean, they're making wholesale characters. We just had Tim Drake come out as bisexual, a character with decades of history at DC. What are we not getting away with? Like, was there another idea that was shot down? Did somebody suggest Damien, or like, no, we can't, not Damien. That would make everybody mad. But well, I guess we'll give you Tim. Like, what do you mean? This feels like one of those statements people make that is really kind of just designed to not exactly play a victim card, but do it's a lot harder for us than it was for them. But in reality, in comics, going after people like John Byrne or Steve Ditko or Frank Miller or Alan Moore or I saw somebody going after Mark Grunwald for privilege, and it's like, Grunwald? I mean, what are you even doing at this point? And they describe it like the comics in the 80s were just like the Wild West of people doing all kinds of crazy things. Never mind the Comics Code Authority, never mind all this other stuff. And that today, the comics industry is so tightly regulated. There's like handcuffs on everyone. You can't begin to tell a story that goes outside of a cisgender white kind of mentality, because my God, you would be you just, nobody would print it. Like, what are you talking about? I think right now in comics, it is the most free time you can imagine to do whatever the F you want. I mean, in many cases, clearly the editors are not even paying attention half the time. That's maybe not. I know it's actually completely fair. Like, I don't even know what you're doing, and so I hate these statements that seem designed to take shots at creators from the past. And granted, by the way, none of this is saying that creators of the past are flawless. Not at all. Alan Moore has 1,000,001 skeletons in his closet, many of them related to snake gods and other things. But regardless, talking about how it's the that work was never that good. It was only, it only was good because there wasn't a lot of competition on the shelves. Again, what are you talking about? Comics were sold more places, sold in more volumes. There wasn't competition. That's the only reason why, John Byrne succeeded. There wasn't good story writing in Batman, so Frank Miller was able to succeed. Like, are we really trying to say that today, in right now, that the story writing in Batman is so great across the board in every aspect of Batman that nobody can stand out because everything is so amazing? That's your point? That's a bizarre ass point. I just that's all I'm saying. So I it this look, everybody is flawed. New creators, current creators, old creators, everybody has flaws. Definitely plenty of flaws in personality and everything else. For me, the longer the time goes by, the more all that's left is the work. And the work either sinks or swims on its own. And the various kind of craziness about the creator tends to fade. And frankly, I love that. That makes things way better for me. I'm happy to see some of this stuff fade from memory. But anyway, I just I don't understand why people today feel such compelling reasons to want to take shots at people who are not even working in comics anymore. It's not even they're not competition unless you want to count the fact that many of these people are outselling them on current creators on Amazon right now in back issues and trades, which maybe instead of taking shots at them, I mean, up your game a little bit. But what do I know? Anyway, but most of all, what are people not getting away with exactly? Like what are you talking about? Thanks for listening.